Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss anime that I believe needs some good freaking video games. So earlier this morning, which may or may not be the last episode, sometimes I throw these things out of order, but earlier for me, I did franchises that I think need perfect video games. And of course, as I always do with these episodes, got out of the car, and the first thing I thought was, dang, I did not reference Soul Eater. Even in the last episode, I mentioned I kind of stuck with all like my childhood shows, Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. And I realized like, man, I didn't touch on much of anything, which happens, I'm basically just driving into work. That's how it goes. Sometimes I get on one set and I'm like, these are the area of my nerdy life that I tend to stick with. So I wanted to do one specifically for anime, and it's not just, kind of in a similar vein of, franchises that I think need anime, but there's definitely some out there that are like, crap, I wish that anime had a really cool video game. And Soul Eater was the one that I thought of because it's my favorite anime and manga. And it was like, man, Soul Eater has some amazing action to it. And I don't know if you do it where, like 90% of anime games at this point, it's like, man, you guys see Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm? Yeah, let's copy that, but make it worse. So I don't know if it'll be that. But that's pretty much all anime games at this point, which is funny because that works. Like, it doesn't work just for Naruto. That works in general. At least it should. Because it's not the style of game that's bad. Because, of course, there was Dragon Ball Fighters. And it was like, okay, well, this game is pretty awesome. And it's, basically a side-scrolling, just a fighter game. And then obviously we got Sparking Zero, which is more aligned with basically every other anime game at this point, where it's a full arena and stuff. Although Dragon Ball Z was really the first ones to do that anyway, so like that was more their thing. But once it kind of clicked and like Naruto figured out their specific version of it, it was like, okay, let's do what CyberConnect did. I don't know if CyberConnect made all of those games, but I know they made quite a few of them because they all look fairly similar, which is just, these games look amazing because they actually found a beautiful art style. Like, the games always look amazing, and then unfortunately it's more the playstyle than it is anything else. Like, I think the Naruto games did a great job. I heard that Demon Slayer had kind of a boring one, and then the Jujutsu Kaisen one, that's a perfect example of, it's just the people making the game that made that horrible. Like, I don't think that had anything to do with CyberConnect. I don't know if that was even them, but just the UI of that was atrocious, where it's like, they had so much stuff on the screen. It's like the memes that people make where, like, here's the new Ubisoft game and it's just a bunch of crap on the screen. It's like, that's what it's like looking at that Jujutsu Kaisen fighting game. And it's like, they didn't even put like animation into it. It's like stills from the anime. Like, that's when you know it's super cheap. It's like, you went through and did this, and this, but all the animation is like just stills and stuff like that. And even with Naruto, the Ultimate Ninja Storm collection or whatever it was, because they had the trilogy, and then after that it was like the collection, which was a different thing where it added new characters, and everyone said that actually sucked. I was so mad when that got announced because I had bought the trilogy it was on sale, and I was like, you know what, I never had the first two games. I started with Generations, and then I bought 4 after that, so I have like 3 Generations and 4, and that was it. So those are the games. So I always missed out on like 1 and 2, and they're fairly different games as you kind of go throughout the franchise. And then I was like, man, I could have just waited and got more characters and this and that. And then it's like, they had like AI stuff in there where the voice actors were saying like, yeah, this isn't, like, I didn't do these voice lines. They took stuff out of the games that was better, animation wise. So I'm kind of happy having just the trilogy. So I think those games did a great job. That was actually how I experienced that's kind of how I actually experienced the end of Naruto Shippuden, because I read the manga, so I was like, I never finished the anime. Like, so I've seen the clips because of course I've watched scenes of some of the fight sequences and stuff with like Madara and everybody else, but I never actually watched it all the way through. Like, the closest I came to watching those fights outside of little videos here and there where I barely even was, it wasn't even really going through stuff, was actually playing the games. And I went through the whole like end of the series playing Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, which is absolutely amazing. I wish every anime had a game that was like that, where, you know what? Bleach is a perfect example. Bleach has a new game coming out. Visually, that game looks amazing. The combat actually seems pretty cool. And then it was like, yeah, this goes from the beginning of Bleach to like the Arankar arc or something like that. And I was like, okay. But that's where you stop. That's okay. This is a brand new Bleach game, and that's where it's stopping. I know there was so much filler in the anime that I don't technically remember exactly where the canon ended and like the just made up crap began. So maybe that was the end of the official canon, and then you jump to like the 1,000 year stuff. But I was like, man, isn't that like a very minuscule part of the series at this point where you could have way more? And who knows, that game could be so in depth that it feels like it's valuable. So I'm still excited to see how that plays out, because I haven't even started like the new series of Bleach. Like I didn't like jump back on because I had to make sure that where the last anime ended, that's where the new one picks up, and that there wasn't anything that I need to read and stuff like that. So I never even, like tapped in on it. But it looks really good. Like visually, I'm like, it looks amazing. I always wanted like a good Bleach game. That was always one of the things with Bleach, where I was like, man, Bleach needs an anime game that's good. Like every time one came out, it was kind of just like, oh, cool. It's like on DS or something. So it never just felt like it had a good console game, because every time a console one would come out, on the very rare occasion it did, it was like, yeah, that looks kind of cheap. So this one looks really good. Visually, it looks amazing. They got like all the different stages where it's like you're playing as the character, then you hit the Bankai, then you can go like even crazier. And it was like everyone gets their, all their transformations, obviously. And it's like, okay, this might be the one. This might be the one. It's really, really good looking. So we'll see what happens there. And we'll see, like, once again, how in depth it really goes as far as, touching on the actual story of the anime. Is it just going to be like tiny little bits and pieces and slideshows, or is it going to be really good? Because that's something I can say for Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. They were doing like big cutscenes, and they made a lot of like the bigger moments like QTE segments, but it worked for that game, because it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to manually control a giant frog doing this and this, although there are segments where you do. But they implemented that where it's like you get to watch the characters. Like there's a lot of stuff, like playing Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 was like playing Metal Gear Solid 4, where it was like, dang, I'm just watching the anime right now. I was like, I've seen some of these episodes, and I'm like, I'm just going through it again. Like obviously they cut some stuff and it's shortened, but it's like, no, this is in depth. Like I really love that game. Like it felt like if someone didn't want to watch the anime, they could play Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 and get the last chunk of the series in good enough detail to where they don't feel like they missed out on anything. Like it's actually that well detailed, plus the little bit of extra filler stuff they throw in there, obviously so you can have a couple more fight sequences that they kind of pull in from the anime. And I was like, this is actually a great representation of what happens in the series. So I would hope that every anime game going forward is like that. But I mean, tell as old as time, when the F is Dragon Ball Z just gonna do a whole series? And then Sparking Zero came out, and it was like, hey, you can play from Dragon Ball Z all the way up to the end of Super. And it was like, wow, I would love it if they just made a game that was all of Dragon Ball. Like I would love a video game where they focus on actual Dragon Ball. I don't understand why that hasn't happened yet, and that's like the weirdest thing in the world to me. It's like, people watch that too. If anything, they should do it for the people that haven't watched Dragon Ball, so they can experience that whole story and go into DBZ. But that's just me. Like I know it's a part of the whole time skip thing, so they add the extra subtitle onto it, but I'm like, this is weird. Like why have they never done that? So I that's still in my head. Like why don't you guys ever just do all of Dragon Ball? Do Dragon Ball into Dragon Ball Z all the way up to the end of Super. Like do the whole thing. That's still super weird. So even Dragon Ball still needs its own actual like dedicated game, because we always get Z, and we finally got Super, with Sparking Zero coming in. But it's like they need to do like the whole franchise. They've had effing decades. They've been making Dragon Ball Z games since the NES, which is a real thing, by the way. That blew my mind when I realized exactly how old Dragon Ball actually was, or Dragon Ball Z specifically, not just Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z has like 5 games on the NES alone. So they've had time to be like, hey, should we add Dragon Ball to this? And then they just never do it. They only do Dragon Ball Z. It's like, oh man, Raditz, Raditz up to Trunks 1800 effing times. The games are still fun. We always play them. And then it's like, oh, they added the next chapter in the next game, the next arc. And then it finally ends, and we get up to like Cell and stuff. And then you get Boo, and it's like, okay. And then you get that like 4 more effing times. From Raditz to Boo, like 18 times over. And now we finally got the first game that gives us Super. So at some point, even Dragon Ball needs its own actual game to encompass the entire thing. And who knows, obviously, with the future of the series, R.I.P. Toriyama, of course, what that means and where we're gonna go. I know there's some stuff that happened with Daima and how weird that's been. Who knows? And like just weird rights things that I've seen as of late. So I hope things just work out. But who the F knows, if we're being completely honest. But we'll see what happens. But Dragon Ball, oddly enough, still needs as many games as it has. We still don't have like a complete representation of all of Dragon Ball in a video game. So despite the 8 billion versions that you can play of going from Raditz to Majin Buu, we still need more. We still need more. And honestly, I wouldn't hate it if they threw in a straight up GT like timeline. Like I know they did it, game wise, and I know what happened in Daima. But if they were just like, F it, here you go, all of GT, I wouldn't hate that. I don't think anybody would, if we're being totally honest, where it was like, dang, they actually threw in like a updated version. It would be the most updated version of GT that we could possibly get. Just on a visual perspective, the game would look better than the anime did because it's so old now. And it's like, I think people would actually appreciate that. Like, not just for the fact that we'd get like those versions of characters, because you don't have to see a hint of the GT storyline to get, Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta. They'll do it every effing day of the week to be like, here you go, you guys like these forms? But they'll never do the story. And it's like, I'd actually kind of like to see that come back, just to go, like, the story's there. I know, even if it's not seen as canon, like, just make it a DLC or something, which they could at this point. I highly doubt they will, even for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I still doubt that would ever happen. But even I'm like, hey, they did do all the movie characters, which was wild. So maybe that was the first time they ever like touched on that sort of stuff. So maybe we'll get like some chapters or something. We'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But even though I never expected to talk about it, Dragon Ball does still need its own like official full storyline game, regardless of the weird tangents and timelines, or however you want to look at it for canon versus non-canon. But to jump onto the very first thing that I referenced, which is my favorite anime and manga, Soul Eater. I'm hoping we get a Soul Eater remake, first off, but Soul Eater 100% could use a video game, especially if it was done in the style of like, Ultimate Ninja Storm and stuff, where you just go through the actual story of the anime, because there's so much that they could do. There's already so many fights and stuff, and the characters branch off to do different things and twists and turns within the story. There's a lot that could be done there, and I think there is an old fighting game that came out. I don't know if it even came out in the States, but I do believe that there was an old Soul Eater fighting game, like when the anime originally came out. But that could 100% use a cool fighting game. Even if they didn't do the arena style where it goes through the whole campaign and stuff, if it was just, a 2D fighter, I'm sure that could work too. I mean, there's a lot of anime where I think they could work for both. It just depends on how you want to do it. I think the arena stuff works depending on how much effort you really put into the game. Like, the My Hero game is a pretty good example. Was it One's Justice 1 and 2, where you can run around and you can fight inside buildings, and some buildings you can destroy and stuff like that, and run along the walls, and it's actually kind of cool. It's pretty decent. And going through the story elements of that, they definitely hit you with the I think they did like film reels was their thing, but it was stills and stuff like that. But you do get to go through the action sequences, and it visually, when you're actually playing it, it's like, okay, this is pretty awesome. Like, I like this scene in the anime. I actually enjoy this fight. And I think when the anime ends, if they do One's Justice 3, I think they should do like a full series game. And who the F knows, because now we have Vigilantes coming out, they'll probably be like, oh, here's like the end of My Hero, but also a little bit of Vigilantes, because once again, anime video games, they'll give you like one or two arcs, and then like a little bonus thing, and it's like, just give me the whole effing game, like, or give me the whole series, please. It's over now. But once again, DBZ, it's been over for like 18 years, and we still can't just get like the whole thing. But I definitely think My Hero could get an updated game, and I think Soul Eater could definitely fit in line with all the other anime games. We'll see what happens, of course. I'm hoping, obviously, that we get a reboot once things kind of happen the way that they're going to happen. I don't want to spoil it just for people that may not know certain things that I'm referencing, but I'm hoping we get that reboot that I'm looking forward to, because I've been waiting like 16 effing years for that. So I would love to see Soul Eater get another game, regardless of whether it's a 2D fighter or an arena fighter. I think both work, and that's the thing when it comes to like specifically anime games. The reason I think so many go into the realm of that arena fighter style is because it does work better. Like, it's anime. Like, Power Rangers is actually a great example. They have the Battle for the Grid game, and that's a great, side-scrolling fighter game, like a classic fighter. But that 100% could easily work as an arena game. Heck, Power Rangers could work as like a Dynasty Warriors type game, if we're being completely honest. But they could definitely do an arena style fighter for Power Rangers because of all the the excessive explosions. Like, you could ham it up and make it a lot like the live action stuff with the extra explosions in battle and things like that, and the upgrades and powers that the characters have, where it's like, oh, battleizer mode and all that stuff. Like, every version will have like the special upgraded suit, which is in every anime game, like the awakened state or whatever transformation they have. And that's why those always work, because you can do that, and then especially if you put the work into it, like Sparking Zero does, and a lot of Dragon Ball games have in the past, where you do the upgrades and you do like a special move, it blows up the whole effing map, stuff like that, or send people flying to different locations and crazy moments. So a lot of those things definitely work out really well, and it's especially because anime moves are so bombastic. Like, if you play the Naruto games, they do the most ridiculous stuff. Like, I honestly, you get to like the end level versions of Naruto and Sasuke, and when you're using moderate specials, and it's like, dude, you just did like 18 Bijou bombs and literally set off like 3 nukes at one time, and then you just go back to the map and it's like, all right, let's keep going. It's like, this whole place is dead. You have salted the earth. There is no life. Life is over now. But anime video games, like, so you just get those bombastic styles when you play those games, and it gives you that feeling, especially as you play through the story modes. It gives you a greater scope in like a more immersive feeling, I think is a better way to put it. It gives you a greater immersive feeling, because when you watch it, the characters are running around. They're in the case of Naruto, it's like he's sending in shadow clones and stuff, and like they're in these great big open arenas where they have to figure out, like, all right, how do I utilize the terrain around me, whether it's open or if they're like in a forest and they do all these different types of things. What can I do with this environment to change the way that this fight works? And so they use the world around them in these big arenas. And let's face it, shonen anime in general, boom, tournament arc. You are in an arena, they're always running around. It is a staple of anime and manga. Like, it is eternal, So it's literally like running around those arenas, especially during those arcs. It's literally like, this is exactly what they did in the anime. Like, they run around the areas. It feels more immersive because you're literally playing out exactly what you saw. It's not just the back and forth. And that's why, despite Dragon Ball FighterZ, which it was Dragon Ball FighterZ, despite that being an amazingly fun game, I absolutely loved it. Especially visually, it was just like ridiculous how good that game looks. Once Sparking Zero was announced and it was like, hey, we're going back to Budokai style arenas, it was like, yeah, I like this, especially because they added in destructibility and things like that. Not through multiplayer, which is crazy, but it is what it is. But it looks good. It's that immersive feeling. You're destroying things and like blowing up buildings and flying through them and punching people in the buildings. Like, it's a different feel. And that's why I think those types of, the arena style is what, as crazy as it might seem, it's what every anime game should kind of have. I just think it becomes kind of mundane and the same because they don't really put enough work into it. Like, Demon Slayer should have been a great game. Like, people should have loved that. Like, people, just blow loads to that anime all the effing time. I don't really get it myself, but hey. But that just didn't do well. And Hunter x Hunter has a side-scrolling game coming out which looked utterly horrible. If you have not seen that footage, like, just look up the first footage. I think it's gotten a little better, but that first footage when it came out was like, what the F is this garbage? And it was kind of a 2D fighting game, but it looked really, really ugly. So I hope that gets better. I hope that, I hope that changes in a lot of ways and just comes out looking okay. But, not every game has to, every anime has to have the arena thing. I just think it feels better, especially if you're, it's more for like playing through the actual story than anything else. But it's super fun having those arenas in multiplayer as well. Like, it's really fun to, once again, you're using the environment just like your enemy is. If it is like a rocky terrain and stuff, you fly behind them on like, all right, I need to kind of charge up, and you get like a little bit of a breather because they can't find you for at least like half a second or something. So I think that definitely works, and I feel like that's a good way for anime games to be, even though once again you can do the side-scrolling style. But Soul Eater 100% needs one. Dragon Ball specifically needs its own game. Other anime that definitely could use some, I think there's a lot of other action games out there, or action anime, I'm sorry, that are out there that could definitely use some really good games, whether it's arena games or just the side-scrolling style. But I want to reference, it's not even an anime technically, it's just a manga, because for some insane reason it never got an anime. But there's this old manga called in the United States, it's called Oparts Hunter because the original title is 666 Satan. So obviously, for Jesus reasons, they kind of changed that name here in the States. That was a huge bump I just hit. But that's one of my favorite manga. And it's actually made by Seishi Kishimoto, is Masashi Kishimoto's brother. Masashi Kishimoto made Naruto. You probably knew that, but just in case. But his brother is also mangaka, and he made 666 Satan. He also made a couple other manga as well, but that was actually the first manga I ever read all the way through. And I love that manga. I thought it was great, and I could not believe that it never ended up getting an anime. Like, that blew my mind. But I would love for that to have a video game, because the powers and stuff in that, same thing, arena style. I think of like the tournament arc that's in that as well. But the powers in general really fit an arena-based sort of thing with that. So I would love to see that get a video game. One that I have no idea how it could possibly work, but I also would love to see it happen just because I'm like a huge fan of the franchise, or I shouldn't even say franchise, it's just of the story and its absolute insanity. I would love to see Blame get a video game. That will never happen. It didn't even really get a remake. I was kind of pissed with the Blame Netflix anime movie. I was a little mad with that. I was like, this is not at all what Blame was in the manga. So I was a little upset with that because I was like, I guess you could count it as like a side story within the manga. But I was a little annoyed. I was like, I thought this was going to be like Blame, like the actual thing. And I was just like, this is super different than what I was hoping for. But I was happy to have it. At least Blame got out there. Like nobody talks about Blame. Like, Blame. It's so good. Read Blame. It's crazy. Like it's very interesting. It's a super unique manga. It has an old anime, but sadly I don't think it'll ever get like a remake anime. I would love to see that though, because I never watched the old one. But it's crazy. It's really crazy. That's all I can really say to describe it, because there's no other way to describe Blame. It's different. It's just very, very different. But I highly recommend Blame. That's definitely an old one that I kind of fell in love with. But I would love to see that somehow get a game. Like, I don't think you could really make a great game out of that, just because the story is so simple and kind of slow. Slow honestly describes the story of Blame. But it makes, typically you hear slow as a story from a story perspective, and it's like, that makes it sound boring. It's not boring. It's just like, you just go through it and it's quick. Like, honestly, if you read it, it's insanely fast. I think literally the whole first chapter, the main character literally says like one word, if anything at all. Like, it's just like, you can kind of shoot through it really quick, because the main character is genuinely like the epitome of the quiet character. So you could totally read it super fast. And gameplay wise, I'm not sure how that would work, but that's just me being like, I kind of just want Blame to come back a little bit. So that one probably wouldn't translate too well, but I'd love to see it. I would also love this. Once again, this won't happen, and technically it already did. I would love a new Samurai Champloo game. Like, if they just, for whatever reason, were like, hey, what if we made Samurai Champloo as a video game? Because they did that back in the day, and they just redid it again for whatever reason. I'd be super happy. I would love to see that. They could totally do Cowboy Bebop. 100% Cowboy Bebop could work. Or if they want to get crazy, just do Lazarus. For anyone who doesn't know, Lazarus is the new show that's coming out by Shinichiro Watanabe, who made Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo and Carol and Tuesday and Space Dandy. Super underrated. Watch Space Dandy. Hilarious. But Lazarus is clearly going to be an action anime, with a really cool story premise. So they can make that into a video game for sure. At least based off of the trailer and what most of his series are definitely like. I could easily see that becoming a video game, but I don't think that would happen. Just his style in general, I don't think would typically translate into him even wanting people to make video games, because he's had so many franchises, and yet only Samurai Champloo has ever had a video game. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm sure there could easily be like an NES Cowboy Bebop game that I've never played. Like, honestly, you might be shocked at some of the things that do have video games that have not come out in the States. So it might be out there actually. But I think Lazarus could definitely end up making a cool video game, and that's just based off of the fact that I love all his shows, and I know he does action stories well, and plus it's a team-based series, so that could definitely work. And here's another one, insane callback, and I only thought of this because I listened to the theme song the other day. There is an old anime, which I highly recommend. I'm pretty sure it's called Sengoku Raid 1941. Obviously, it's set in 1941. And it's a really great series. And it's about like this team of people, and they all have like superpowers, but I think it was like all their powers have like time limits or specific limits to it as to how they can use their abilities. And I think it was like, if I'm not mistaken, the drawback to all of their powers was like, if they go over their limit, they lose their power forever. I think that was like a part of the mechanic of like all the characters, or at least one of them. It might not have been all of them, but that was definitely a mechanic somewhere in there. But I love that show back in the day. I thought that was cool, and that would be a really cool like period piece action game where you go on like these different missions, and it could be action based and also kind of stealth based too, and maybe even switching around. Once again, I'm bringing up a bunch of stuff that's like, I'm bringing up like rare crap that no, like just the impossible things, but these are stories that I'm thinking of where it's like, these would make great video games too. So I know like just about everything I reference, if it's not the gigantic series that is Dragon Ball or Naruto, it's probably not really going to end up happening, but I would love to see that happen as well. I guess if I'm trying to think of something that's also not just one of my old-timey obscure references, like an old person. I did mention My Hero. If they made like a newer version of the Once Justice games, or made like a complete series version of that game where it goes through like the entire anime, I think they could really do it, and definitely do just better on like just recalling the actual anime. I also had it on the Switch, but I'm sure it's exactly the same. I don't think that I got like the even crappier version just because I got it on the Switch, where it's like, oh yeah, they do the reels here, but it's actual cutscenes on other consoles. I hope that's not the case, or I'm gonna be even more pissed that I got it on the Switch. But you know, My Hero could definitely use one. I'm sure there's, you know, I'm not like currently caught up on a lot of anime right now, so that's why I'm also referencing like a bunch of like my old-timey old man favorites. But there's definitely a bunch of anime out there that could use some really great video games, or great new video games that could be like the definitive thing. Like, once again, just to go back to it real quick, but the Naruto games are fantastic. That should be the blueprint for anime video games. It's just that they take the blueprint and then they only take like 20% of it, and it's just like, well, we'll just make it an arena shooter and we'll make it look pretty, and that'll be it. And that's why those games come out crappy. Like, there's no reason, the way people love Demon Slayer, that should have come out to the reviews it came out to. Crazy stuff like that. But that's it for my rambling this time around. As far, I'm sure there's going to be another anime where I'm like, what the F is wrong with me? Because every episode I forget to name something incredibly obvious that I know. But somehow I ended up going with all these old references of things that most people probably haven't watched. Watch everything that I mentioned, and I'm gonna just randomly shout out another, which is a horror anime. Please watch that. That's one of my favorite anime of all time. But that's it for me. I would love to know what anime you guys think deserve some video games, whether it's new video games or just like better versions or complete video games, like the Dragon Ball thing. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.